Hi, and welcome to another informative episode with me, Carmel Fisher, on the Harvest podcast. Today we have Dr. Ilke Demir. She is a fantastic leader in the AI space, amongst many other things. Ilke Demir, welcome. I know that you go by being a really curious scientist, synthesizing new worlds and detecting fake ones. This is super crucial in today's world with fast moving AI technology. You're the one we need to be speaking with and hearing about the future of AI and everything else unfolding as we speak. Welcome to the show, Ilke. Happy to have you.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for the invitation. Super happy to be here and talk about deepfakes.
Well, you know what? Let's start off with a recap of your background. Where are you based? What have you studied? What kind of doctor and scientist are you? And then just give us an understanding of your journey that has gotten you to this point.
Absolutely. So currently, I'm a senior staff research scientist at Intel Labs, and I lead Intel's Trusted Media Initiative. And we are trying to build this trusted online feature for all of us because the misinformation, disinformation content is too much. How I came here? So currently I'm in LA. I'm based in Los Angeles, and before this, I was in the Bay Area. I was like working in a startup. Then we sold the startup, and then before that, I was a postdoc in Meta. I keep saying Facebook was that old. At that time, it was called Facebook. Anyway, so we were also looking at generative models like that time, like before it was cool, I would say. We were looking at deep learning models about understanding humans, understanding eyes, gazes, understanding human behavior, understanding how we behave in virtual reality, and also developing generative models on different modalities, like on human modalities, on image modalities, on satellite imagery, so generative models everywhere. And before that, I was doing my PhD. So I got my PhD from Purdue University in computer science. My thesis was about proceduralization, which is another fancy word for extracting all the data about 3D world and putting it in a more structured way so that we can know what is every bit of information representing in 3D, how we can edit that information, how we can create new worlds, synthesize new worlds from those 3D collections. So yeah, that's basically me.
Wonderful. Sounds like a very comprehensive background and very detailed. Now, with all that knowledge at your disposal, where do you see the future in 5 years? Just knowing everything that we're capable of manipulating, especially with your proceduralization, what is the potential of all this?
Like we are getting very good at generative models. We can create images, 3D, like faces. You may also be wondering, or the audience may be wondering, am I really real? Is it a real video, or like, is it actually a deepfake, right? Maybe I already gave my script to my deepfake and she is saying, but no, so you can see that it's not a deepfake. Anyway, so the point about future is that these generative models are not going anywhere and they are getting better and better and better. The point that we need to be concerned about is how we can make them more human-centric, more controllable, more compositional, how we can actually bridge this gap, because digital creation, digital artists have been there for decades, for many years, right? And like CGI, VFX, like all these productions, all these creativity, all these like digital creations have been there. But currently, the main problem is that these deep generative models are not as behaving as how we want them to behave, right? So if you are editing my video and I don't know, like changing the color of my hair, or doing some beauty things, right? It is not as controllable if you are trying to do that with generative model. You are just saying, okay, make her hair blonde, and maybe while it is making my hair blonde, it's also adding makeup or like changing the color of my shirt, etc. So one edit that you do is not localized, it goes everywhere because you are just trying to edit it by text, by prompt descriptions, etc. So to sum up, these traditional approaches like procedural modeling, proceduralization, like actual like 3D modeling software, etc., or 2D image processing software, Photoshops and everything, right, needs to be bridged really nicely into these deep generative models so that we both benefit of this like super nice understanding of the world and also human creativity, so that it's not like human creativity versus deep generative models versus how we can enhance human creativity with generative models. So I think that's the most that's the point we need to converge for the future.
Got it. Okay, so I think you answered my next question. Are we doomed with all these deep fakes? But it sounds like the intention is obviously to work alongside humans. But what happens, Ilke, when we get to the point where the lines are so blurred and we don't know real from fake? Is that not a real reality? Is that not a real concern? Purely because, you guys are working so hard at making things so specific and so editable on very minute levels to make it more human. But is that not going to blur the lines entirely in the near future where we can't really tell real from fake?
Absolutely. That is even happening right now. So in some of my trainings that I give, I actually have one slide that I play like 6-7 versions of the same video, and I let the audience say, okay, which one is real? Just one of them is real. Which one is real? And they never get the actual correct one to be real. They always select one of the fake ones to be real, even if I eliminate one by one. So we are actually very close there, and like generative models are getting better every day. So how we are trying to approach that problem is also in a human-centric way, not for generation, not for synthesis, but also for analysis, also for detection. So, we have signals. So as humans, we still have some signals, some biometrics, some physical, natural, physiological signals that is not replicated by fakes yet. The very first one that the audience may have heard about is called fake catcher. So fake catcher is looking at the blood signals, blood flow. So bear with me. When your heart pumps blood,
I'll need to to stay with you on this one. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, when your heart pumps blood, it goes to your veins, and your veins change color. You cannot see that like color change just by looking at my video and like my cheeks are redder or something like that, but It's actually computationally visible, and it is called photofluorescence, PPG for short. So those PPG signals are actually like those heart rate monitors, right? Like those are actually structured signals that you can see that, okay, heart rate may be elevated, maybe down, okay, down, they are consistent. They are also consistent everywhere on your face because you have one heart, right? So if it is like a sinusoidal on your left cheek, it's a sinusoidal on your right cheek. So they are actually together. They are consistent. But for fake videos, they are everywhere. It's like they don't have a heart. They are like everywhere, like not structured, not periodical, not consistent everywhere on your face, etc. So the very first authenticity signal that we looked at is actually fake catcher with PPG. Of course, after that, we looked at many other human signals like eyes and gazes, for example. So when we look at the points, if we are shooting rays from our eyes, it doesn't go like Cyclops. It goes actually converges in a 3D point. And those 3D points are structural in 3D space. And our gaze vectors are also like converging. But for deepfakes, it's like googly eyes. They are like looking everywhere, like one eye here, there, etc. And it's shaky movement, and it's not structured points. So eyes and gazes also contain very valuable information for deepfake detection, and that's another deepfake detector that we developed. We have many others, but like just trying to explain like if we put these human signals, these authenticity signals, into our detectors, into how we can interpret the results of detectors, then we can actually help this battle a little bit more informed way, instead of just like, okay, I trained the model on real, on fake videos, and the model says it is fake, the model says it's real. In that case, you are conforming to the representative power of the data set, instead of actually looking at something real, some real signal, some authentic signal. So I know deepfakes are getting real, but we are still more real than them, more authentic than them. So we are like very hard exploring on these authenticity signals, more detectors based on what makes us real.
Amazing. And, to your point, Ilke, it's probably a lot easier for you to detect the real or not real. To your point earlier, you showed multiple videos, and most of the time people chose the fake one as real. So to the naked eye and the average person out there who's not aware of what to look for, I imagine a lot of deception could occur. And with the elections coming up, with all sorts of information overload, and people increasingly creating content, generating revenue streams, what is the future going to be like? And perhaps, is there education that we should be focusing on? How do you think policies should be aligned with the advancements, basically?
Beautiful questions packed in one one block, so I will try to decipher it like one by one. So about education and how we can be more informed on like finding the reals and fakes. We actually make many users, we conduct many user studies about how people are perceiving deepfakes and real videos. And we looked at like many different variables in that equation. For example, familiarity with the person in the video, familiarity with the context in the video, if they can understand the audio in the video or not, or if it's the same language. If the person in the video versus the viewer has the same demographics or not. And there are so many factors that are actually affecting whether someone perceives an information as deepfake or not. So first of all, like, we cannot unbias everything, right? Like, if I have that like unconscious bias about like my visual system detecting people that are like me to be more real versus fake, versus people that are unlike me, to like make them like observe them differently, I cannot maybe this is like super unconscious that I cannot change that. Similar to like, that there are similar studies about like remembering faces of people, right? So if you're able to differentiate and remember faces of people in similar demographics to you than other people, etc. So there are also many psychological studies like that. Anyway, that is similar. We have similar findings for deepfakes. So first of all, if there are available detectors to you, of course, like, get whatever ammunition you can get from those detectors so that you can decide whether something is real or fake. If there are no detectors available to you, then you can still look at some of the details and try to understand whether real or fake. So you can look at the boundary artifacts. There are some boundary artifacts and symmetry artifacts that are making them more real, less real, etc. Another one is what happens in extreme cases. So if I continue to talk like this without moving my head, but at some point I'm moving my head and you have a side profile, and suddenly there are like some blurriness by my nose or by my hair, or, like my hair is always like that. Whatever the wind is, whatever the motion is, it's always here. Those are some clues that is inconsistent with physical rules, inconsistent in image integrity, etc. Then there is another territory about what humans are much better and detectors right now, which is context and let's say consistency. I will open it a little bit. So context is that there is a video. Unfortunately, it's a fun video. It's for satire, of course, but there's a video of Trump wearing a Santa hat reading children's books, children's stories, etc. And like as a human, if you look at that super high resolution video, you would say that no, this didn't happen. This is obviously a deepfake, right? But if it is a very high quality deepfake, then it can actually fool these automatic detectors very, very convincingly, because it's high resolution and it's like not that much information to look at and in terms of artifacts, right? But humans are very good at detecting that. So context, whether what a person is saying can actually be true or not, like that induction, that like reasoning is what humans are super good at. So I would say as like just have that doubt about would this person could have said that, in that setting, in that context, I don't know, with that flag at the back, etc. So that is the education part. Very quick response on the policy part. Most of this misinformation, disinformation, deepfakes are emerging from social media. And that's like one of the main places. Like in traditional media, there may be some cases that some deepfakes sneak maybe sneak in, but like they mostly come from online sources. And the regulation of those online platforms is right now mostly left on users and individuals, not on the platforms themselves. So when I'm uploading something, I need to label it as deepfake. I need to label it as AI generated. However, let's say if I don't, there is no push about catching me that I actually uploaded a deepfake. And that push, that responsibility, that accountability should be on the platforms, because they're actually making money off that, right? If I put a super impactful deepfake without labeling it, they are still making money from all likes, shares, subscribes, whatever, and exactly. And because of that, I think the policy space should also put that responsibility and accountability a little bit more on the platforms, on how it is distributed instead of how it is created. So that's still a pain point. And I think when that happens, the misinformation landscape will at least a little bit like decline, so that people have that fear of like being found out, distributing those, etc. There's one more pain point, and I think I really need to say that in terms of like policy, in terms of those generated images, videos, etc., on the people that actually created training data for deepfakes. It's probably like online resources, online videos, etc. But for generative arts, all these artists, all these voice actors, all these digital creators are creating so much content. And then generative models are replicating the style, replicating the content, replicating their identity, their work, basically. And the artists are never compensated back for that. So there needs to be really hard policies about what data you can train on, what data you need to attribute back to, what data is contributing to a generated output, so that you can compensate back the actual the creators of the training data, etc. So I think that's also something that the policy landscape should really focus immediately, because every image that is shared on the internet that is based on an artist's original work that is replicated a little bit with generative models is actually making those artists lose money, lose hope, lose, like that's very frustrating, that like you don't even know who steals your work.
Yeah,
right?
totally agree. And that's just another industry that's being impacted by AI. And don't get me wrong, I love the new technology. I think many of us can attest to its really wonderful pros. But to your point, do you think that governments can operate quickly enough? Won't that just delay the advancements that just seem to be propelling themselves, right? It's this AI technology is learning from the content out there, but then it's improving on itself without even the need of human intervention. Am I correct in saying that? And do you agree that it might just be, we just like on the back foot almost in terms of policy, because it's just taken off, it's got a life of its own?
I agree in the sense that technology and research is proceeding a little bit more stably and deterministically, because those are problems that we can continuously experiment and continuously get results on. On the human topics, like legal or policy or regulations, these require humans organically to agree on something, to see something, find out solutions that are not technologically or deterministically one way to do. So that organic process actually takes much more time, and unfortunately takes much more time. And like logically, it makes sense. However, there needs to be some catch up, some focus, so that it is not that super big gap between the pace of things. We are trying to do that a little bit by doing technology, developing technology for humans. For example, like we were just talking about the artists and their work, right? So ideally, in an ideal world, in a utopia, what should happen is that there is a regulation, there is policy, and if someone is stealing art, then they should be punished, etc. So they don't steal art. Sorry, very, 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 very lay terms, right? That doesn't happen because regulation is not there. What we are trying to do is, can we actually provide something technologically to artists so that they can protect their work technologically, right? So we have something called My Art, My Choice. That's the name of the approach. And My Art, My Choice take some visual content, and it learns to generate a protected version of that visual content, so that the protected version cannot be replicated. When you give the protected version to a diffusion model, to a generative model, etc., actually it breaks that diffusion model. It breaks stable diffusion, it breaks runway, whatever, like what your best generative model. And in that case, like while artists are waiting for the policy to be on their side, we can technologically let them protect themselves, protect their art from diffusion models, from generative models. So that's our attempt to actually bridge that gap between, fill that gap between technology and policy. There is another side that, well, AI is already having side effects and very hurtful impact on individuals right now, that we need to do something for the harms right now, without being without those doomsday scenarios. I think in this space the focus should be how the governments can support responsible and ethical AI approaches, how they can actually look at the threats and harms of those AI models, so that they can actually support the research and the work that is going to counter these effects, counter unfair behavior of AI, counter replicating likeness of people, counter unethical uses, not as the AI itself, but its uses across different bodies, etc. So I think the most the best thing that can happen right now is actually shining those AI for good, responsible AI, ethical AI, fair AI approaches, focusing more resources, focusing more light, focusing more visibility on those approaches. Just leave those doomsday scenarios and look at the harms that are happening right now, instead of many years to come, maybe, or maybe never come, right? And when it is like that, it won't be a question around, oh, we should stop all AI development right now because it's going to be bad. No, it should be more like, okay, how can we focus all those efforts to AI for good, responsible AI, ethical AI, fair AI use cases?
100%. Nobody's ever going to, I think there's no way of stopping it. I would not even vote for stopping advancements. I think they're incredible. It's just sad that it's such a fast-moving engine that everything else you're speaking of just seems to not be able to catch up. And, that's probably, got different conversation, different concerns, not ours to try to solve today. But I appreciate your inputs on it. Let's pivot now to your experience as a female in the STEM world. What was that like for you?
Oh, that's a heavy question. um, so it's no secret that the number of females in STEM are not really as much or as equal as you would like. And it starts as every step, and every step of the ladder, every step of the career, every new company, etc. There's always this lack of females, always lack of perspective. Not just females, maybe like even less in women in color, even less like Latinas in different fields, etc. So when there is not enough perspectives contributing to a topic, and that doesn't need to be just like a human topic, that can be a technological topic, that can be a very narrow research project, to a very big like multi-project program. When there are less perspectives contributing to it, you visibly see that the output, the experiments, the results, the even the measurement metrics, everything is not enough, and not producing, and not really achieving in a way that like always the puzzle is missing, always some maybe safety approach is missing, or maybe diversity approach is missing, maybe human-centric approach is missing, maybe. And it's not that like other people are not thinking about that, but they don't have enough experience, and they don't have enough multi-dimensional thinking to actually see all of them and relate all of them to what is the actual task, what is the actual purpose. But females actually have that multi-dimensional thinking, because they are actually a subject of this every day.
We are multidimensional beings. We all are, I believe, even males, but 100% more so with the female side. We're just wired that way. And you're saying that you're bringing this fresh take. And yet, is it being welcomed? Slowly but surely, I hope. But what has your experience been? How difficult has it been just to be a female in the space? Are your opinions heard? Did you feel marginalized? Let's just be frank and candid and say it like it is, because this is how we break through the barriers and help propel change.
Absolutely, yes. There has been many instances that like there are many instances that I cannot even like comprehend like right now all of them, but maybe my top three is that when when I say something, and I think it's my thought, right? And no one in the room actually pays attention to that at that point, but in a couple of minutes, a male colleague repeats the same idea. Suddenly it's the best idea in the world. Oh my God. And I'm like, how? Why? Like, and then it's not just how am I? You start to blame yourself, like, was I not loud enough? Was it my accent? Was it like because they don't trust my opinion, but they that trust his opinion, like that questioning becomes self-pressure, and that actually affects the next time that you are voicing your idea. That affects you, because now you are trying to fix everything to be heard, and you are changing from your authentic self to fix everything that makes you not heard. But you know what? It is the audience that have the problem about not hearing you. You cannot fix yourself. You say it in like 10 different ways. That idea coming from that male mouth will be louder. And that is the thing that needs to be fixed, right? So that was a top one. The maybe second thing that always happens, like still up to this day. It's not like, oh, when I was a PhD student, or like when I was in that company, this company. No, it happens everywhere.
I understand it. I don't think it's just in your space, right? I think STEM, like finance, etc., is very heavy male dominated, but it's an experience that I go through on a very similar level you're going through, and multiple other women. And it's disheartening that at this day and age that is still the reality. But we don't want to focus on the negative. I believe that to some degree we can own our own experience, and then be vocal as you are being now. So thank you for your vulnerability, but also thank you for everything you're doing. I think it's fantastic that you're so deeply ingrained in this industry and really forging a path forward for not only females but everyone who's interested in in learning more about this technology and helping us to, protect ourselves against the negative connotations of it. What advice would you like to give any females or anyone really following in your footsteps?
I would say don't self-doubt. The most of the multidimensional thinking that we talked about is actually causing us to self-doubt, hesitate in every action, expand our thinking time before taking an action, before saying something. The example that I give is that, like, we are in a meeting, we are talking about, oh, we should do this and that, and then maybe someone, because we are doing research, like we are reading so many articles, so many like research papers, etc., right? So male person always says that, oh, there's a paper that does X, okay? But the female person is always, oh, there was a paper that was doing this. I don't really remember the equation. I don't remember the authors of that paper. So how can I refer to that paper? Let me Google first, find the paper. Be sure that it is the paper that I'm thinking about that helps this topic, so that after that I propose that, oh, there was a paper that says that does X.
Having to prove yourself consistently. You can't just be trusted at your word without deep evidence about something. I understand that, but please continue the story.
No, absolutely. Like, yeah. Like, as you said, like, the more you overthink, the more you analyze your own words, your own behavior, your own output, your own results. Someone else is pushing whatever correct or incorrect information, whatever correct or incorrect results before you do, and the time you miss in between is just the time, because your point is as unvalidated as his point at that time. So you can always go back and say, oh yeah, no, it was not that paper, but it was this other paper. It is totally fine. Because the other person is doing it without thinking at all. It's not that he knows the paper, he knows the authors, etc., and then he says that, right? So I would say, like, be a little bit more confident in your actions. Overthink less, be less hesitant about taking an action, saying something, doing something, and then first do it, then analyze.
Wonderful. And obviously coming from strong experience, and not only in, the space of being a leading female in a male-dominated space and doing incredibly well. Again, appreciate your efforts and having this conversation with you, but also coming with deep experience as a scientist and a doctor in the field of deepfakes. So I've learned a ton today from you. I appreciate it. Is there anywhere else we can find more information or learn more about everything you're teaching?
You can always find me and contact me from my website, ilkedemir.github.io. ILKEDEMIR.
Excellent. And I don't think we touched, as you earlier mentioned, on the filming part of the AI technology. We didn't touch on filmmaking, but just since you mentioned it, talk to us very briefly about AI's involvement in volumetric filmmaking.
Absolutely. So that works follow up my proceduralization, generative models, etc. But the actual research heaven for me was Intel Studios, and Intel Studios was this full 10,000 square feet volumetric capture studio. What is a volumetric capture studio? That is a 3D movie making studio. Without without like motion capture, without like markers, you just shoot a movie as if you are shooting a 2D movie, running in 3D, real fight scenes and etc., all in that volumetric capture space, and it is from everywhere, right? So you can actually put it in a VR headset. You can do some augmented reality productions. If you want to capture 2D content from that 3D capture, you can put the camera everywhere. You can even put the camera in the eyes of the horse, so you see like how horse sees the world, etc., right? So you can put the camera everywhere post capture. Anyway, so that's just like a gist of volumetric filmmaking that we were doing in Intel Studios. And just like one little detail, I think that would like that hopefully makes sense to the audience, that the amount of data we receive in that space is 270 gigabytes per second.
Wow, goodness, I mean, per second? Wow, incredible. Thank you so much, Ilke. I think this has been a really insightful conversation. I look forward to catching up with you again in the near future to hear more about your developments and everything you're keeping up to speed with on the deepfake side. As a curious scientist synthesizing new worlds and detecting fake ones, I've been having a conversation with Dr. Ilke Demir. This is the Harvest Podcast. You stay tuned for more. That's it from the Harvest Podcast, available anywhere you find podcasts. Stay tuned for more.